Hello again, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast, Retro Life for You. My name is Chris Adams, host of the show. And this week, sitting in with me, I have returning co host Cody Tucker. Cody, how's it going today?
Hey, man, it is going great.
Going great. We've been working with some technical difficulties today, but I think we've worked through everything. It's been fun, hasn't it?
Jesus, I hope we work through everything.
Man, I tell you, and it's not funny, haha, but it's just like, what else could possibly happen? It's nowhere near as funny as the guy we're going to talk about today either. I mean,
True.
We are going to be basically remembering Chris Farley today.
Yes.
And such a great comedian when he was with us and everything. Sad, died of an overdose. It's kind of like, just like they always compared him to Belushi.
Oh yeah.
And just like Belushi, I don't know if it's the same age or just close to. Was it same age?
Same age, 33, right?
Yeah, 32 or 33, one of the two.
It was one of the two. I'm fairly certain they were the same age.
Died of a drug overdose. Very sad.
Yeah, it's definitely a self-fulfilling prophecy. I mean, he idolized John Belushi. Like, it wasn't just really everybody else comparing him. I mean, he compared himself to Belushi nonstop. Like, any interview you see where he's talking about who his like influences are, it's Belushi. So there's something to that, I think.
There was somebody else as well, I believe, that people would compare him to, or he had as, another person to look up to for comedy, other than Belushi. But Belushi was the main person that they referred to him as, basically.
Yeah.
From the fact he's on SNL to his style of comedy, everything. And then the fact, of course, his substance abuse issues he had.
Yeah, well, 90s SNL, at least, because I mean, that was who basically he cites as being his biggest influences are just the 70s cast of SNL. So Bill Murray, Chevy Chase, Gilda Radner, Lorraine Newman, Dan Aykroyd, those guys are, and then Belushi, of course. And there is something about like how everything from the 70s basically just repeated itself in the 90s.
Yeah.
And that 90s cast of SNL is a repeat in a sense of the 70s cast, with Farley being the obvious, Belushi.
Known as the bad boys of SNL.
Yeah, exactly.
Chris Rock, Adam Sandler, Tim Meadows, Rob Schneider, David Spade, along with Chris Farley, of course. There was others on there. But
Norm's my favorite. Norm Macdonald.
Norm Macdonald. He was probably one of my favorite people doing the weekend news.
Yeah, I mean, he's my favorite comic of all time. 100%. Like, that is like who I idolized was Norm for sure.
I can't say he's my favorite comedian of all time. Even with SNL, I mean, there was ones I found funnier with the skits they did, but it doesn't mean he wasn't a funny man. He was a funny guy, and I loved it when they did Celebrity Jeopardy, and they would bring him on. I think he always did Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, he was always Burt. Yeah. No, I mean, the Weekend Update was, I mean, that's the greatest time of Weekend Update for sure is Norm Macdonald. I mean, Colin Quinn's pretty good. Dennis Miller was good, but Norm is. I mean,
it's his style of comedy that worked well with it.
Yes,
is what it was for me. Well, as far as SNL skits, I mean, Chris Farley had quite his share of skits that were hilarious. I mean, he was one of three that did the Gap Girls. He was in the Bill Swirsky super fans group, or they'd be like the Bears.
Yeah.
I mean, we just spoke of this earlier with each other. The Chippendales thing he did with Patrick Swayze was so funny.
And Matt Foley, the motivational speaker,
that's his best character.
That's got to be. Yeah, I mean, that is. I mean, not even just for Farley. If you were doing like a top 10 most iconic SNL sketches, I mean, Matt Foley, motivational speaker, is in the top 10 of all time of the entire 50-year history. It's in the top 10, maybe even top 5.
It's got to be. I don't see how it couldn't be. And he had said that character, Matt Foley, I believe he's based it on his rugby coach he had, as well as his father. Because his father would yell a lot to be real loud to get his point across, and his rugby coach would kind of his rugby coach would kind of squat down, You know, he's sitting there and just kind of talk to the people as they're listening, tell them what they got to do. You know, and the combination of those two worked out real well to be Matt Foley for him.
Yeah.
But I mean, SNL. I mean, he joined SNL. Let's see, we said it was 19.
Well, probably 92 or 93, I would imagine.
Say, yeah. No, well, let's see.
Maybe 91.
It was one of the new Saturday Night Live cast members announced early in 1990.
Oh, that's right. Well, he was a featured player, I think, in 90, and then he became like an actual cast member.
In
I think 92 or 93.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he joined in in the exact same class as Sandler, David Spade, Rob Schneider, and Chris Rock. Like they were all like in the exact same time.
Now, we were mentioning Matt Foley as an over-the-top motivational speaker who frequently reminded other characters that he was living in a van down by the river. The character was created by Bob Odenkirk when he and Farley were performers at Second City. The character's name came from a longtime friend of Farley's who became a Catholic priest and currently serves as the head pastor at St. James Catholic Church in Arlington Heights, Illinois.
Wow.
Oh, man. Imagine him going through that. People go, your name is Matt Foley? Do you live in a van by any chance?
Yeah.
Down by the river?
God, that's, yeah. I mean, that is, well, I mean, a lot of SNL characters, their names are just, taken from people that they grew up with. Like the Hurley boy, it was like Adam Sandler is, just named after the writer. I think his name was like Tim Hurley. He was one of the writers on SNL. So they just called him like the Hurley boy. That's the one with Chris Farley too, where he's like trying to get Adam Sandler like a job as like a house sitter and basically slowly working his way into like having the kid like live with the family.
Yeah.
That's to me that's one of my favorite Farley sketches. Just the progression.
Do you remember the Chris Farley show?
No. I did not know there was a Chris Farley show.
No. It's a skit on this.
Oh, yes. Are you talking about the one where he would like interview like McCartney and just be like, "Yeah, you're in the Beatles. That must have been pretty cool." Like, yeah.
What was the question he asked him about faking death or you supposedly died?
Oh yeah, no. He goes. He says like, like you supposedly died or he's like, so I heard that you died in 1967, blah blah blah. Is that true? Yeah.
The look on his face was like, well, obviously not. I'm here with you right now, Chris.
Have you seen the one? This is another one of my favorite Farley sketches. It's where it's like, obviously like a satire of those commercials where they're testing a product on people without letting them know. And so it's like those like Swedish coffee crystals or whatever. And they go up to him at a restaurant like, "Sir, did you know you're not actually drinking coffee, blah, 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 but you're actually drinking Swedish coffee crystals?" And he's like, "What?" And then he just gets super angry. He's like, good God. And then just starts attacking people because they tricked him into drinking coffee crystals.
I don't think I've seen that one, but
you got look it up if after this. Like, just, I mean, it is like he's so good at going from being like very childlike to being super intense, like fat. I mean, he can like flip that switch so quick.
And he's goofy as all get out. I mean, when he dressed up as the lunch lady, and did that thing as he's going through, like he's dipping out food and stuff, and he's ballet dancing out there as he's running around.
I forgot about that one. Yeah, that's a good one too. And Schwartz, when he would be like storming Norman Schwarzkopf.
Yes,
and like. And like, I want Holyfield, like just started like challenging heavyweight champions.
There was a list of people that said he was famous for impersonating on the show. Schwarzkopf, of course, was one of them. Tom Arnold, I think, is another.
Yeah, Newt Gingrich.
Newt Gingrich, yes, he did Newt Gingrich fairly well as well.
No, that was John Goodman, I think, right? That did Linda Tripp. I think so. Yeah, never mind. What other ones did he do? I can't even really remember. I don't really remember him as being a person that did like impressions. He was very much more of like a character, character actor on the
Right.
show.
No, you're right. I'm trying to find where they said. Oh, here we go. Some of the characters that were brought to him from his days at Second City. It says
Mhm.
he also performed impersonations of Tom Arnold, who gave Farley's eulogy at his private funeral. He did Andrew Giuliani, Jerry Garcia, Meatloaf, Norman Schwarzkopf, Dom DeLuise, Roger Ebert, Carney Wilson, Newt
I
Gingrich,
yeah,
Mindy Kahn, Mama Cass. Can you imagine him as Mama Cass?
that's hilarious.
Hank Williams Jr. and Rush Limbaugh.
Oh, okay. See, I remember the Dom DeLuise because they were doing that thing. I think it was with Dana Carvey where he would be like Carcinio, like Arsenio Hall and
Uh-huh.
Johnny Carson put together. And it was like Norm is Burt Reynolds, and they're just like hitting each other with pies, and like they're obviously just super drunk. And Chris Farley's like just screaming, laughing, and like, just peeing all over himself because he's like Dom DeLuise and hammered. But
Yes.
yeah, no, I remember the Dom DeLuise. Yeah.
And I'm just having flashbacks of him doing Carney Wilson too.
That's a great one. I didn't know he did Carney Wilson, but
Yeah.
that is amazing.
Oh man. Well, I mean, his career at SNL was definitely a big thing, and it helped him take off to a bit like a bigger movie career. I believe he didn't just start out, in his own movies like some of them did. But I mean, at the same time, Adam Sandler was the same way. He had bit roles in a movie here and there, and then he got a first movie with him, and so like he's a co-star, and then next thing you know, he's the main attraction.
Yeah.
The same thing kind of happened there, for Chris Farley as well, because he had some movies that he was in bit parts of, like Wayne's World and Coneheads and Wayne's World 2 and Airheads. Billy Madison as the bus driver.
That's the best. To me, that's the best Chris Farley like cameo.
Uh-huh.
I don't know, Wayne's World 2 is a great one. Like, it's a very underlooked cameo. I don't know, man. Airheads is good too. Jesus, like really. Okay, so I mean, this is going to be probably a unpopular opinion. I do not like Chris Farley as a lead actor in any movie except for Tommy Boy. Yeah. I think that he's one of those people that there are certain people that are just so intense that you can't watch an hour and a half of it. Like you need like a 10 to 15 minute spurt of it, and it sets the movie, on top. Like it's the perfect he's the perfect cameo actor, like comic actor. So I in general prefer seeing him as like the cop in Airheads, or the roadie in Wayne's World 2, like that to me. And my favorite is Dirty Work. Actually, that's probably my favorite cameo.
Jimmy No Nose.
Exactly. Yeah. Like those. I mean, that's where I think Chris Farley is best, when he's just there for 10 minutes and he can go crazy in those 10 minutes.
Well, that's kind of like why I liked his SNL career better than his movie career. I was gonna bring that up too. That I thought the SNL time was way better for me than his, because I only really and truly I liked Tommy Boy.
Mm-hmm.
Black Sheep was just like another play on Tommy Boy,
in
a way, because it's him and David Spade together again. They try to do something different. Even Chris Farley wasn't really happy with the outcome of Black Sheep.
No, Black Sheep was not. I mean, I think that they were just trying to recreate the kind of relationship that like Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor had, where they made like 6 movies together because people just like seeing them on screen, and the movies aren't related. They're just, oh, here's another buddy movie with these 2 guys that are both really funny. But I think that Tommy Boy was just way too like massive, to where like when Black Sheep came out, people were just like kind of confused that this wasn't a sequel to Tommy Boy.
It's basically the same character. I mean, he's kind of loud. He's bumbling. He's clumsy. He messes up when he's trying to do good. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the same character basically. And David Spade's character is the same character. He's basically the guy who's the second guy. They was trying to keep him in line. He's got little quips that he throws out there at people, trying to be funny and snarky and everything.
Yeah.
Like when all the little redhead kids go up, he's like, "Is there an OP convention in town? Did I miss it?"
Yeah. No, it's too similar. That's the problem with Black Sheep. It's like I would have liked it better if it was an actual sequel to Tommy Boy,
Might have made more sense, but I mean, it wouldn't have made sense with the storyline they had.
Well, no. I mean,
just but to put the two together as a Tommy Boy 2.
That's what I mean. Like
that would have been more
instead of
ideal.
Doing this whole new storyline, just make an actual Tommy Boy 2, because I actually really liked Chris Farley in Tommy Boy. Like, because he had a lot of like moments in Tommy Boy where he's very like subdued and doing like kind of real acting, and and then he kind of has these moments where he's just like goes into Farley mode, but it's never too much. So by the time the movie's over, like you're like rooting for this dude, and you're not annoyed by it. You're not like drained because you're like, Jesus, I can't watch this for an hour and a half. But and then the rest of Chris Farley's movies are the exact opposite. It's just, let's give Chris Farley as much drugs as possible and make him just go nuts for an hour and a half. And I can't handle those movies.
Yeah. I just left my screen here. Not Black Sheep, but the one they had after that, Beverly Hills Ninja.
Yeah.
What was your thoughts on that movie?
Hated it.
Did you hate it? I'm kind of. Hated it. I don't know which way I want to go with it, because, I mean, to me, it was kind of humorous, because when I grew up in the 80s, I loved watching those ninja movies when they came out.
Yeah.
And to see him kind of spoof it and make it funny, but at the same time, he's trying to be serious, like he thinks he's a real ninja. And then you've got the guy from Mortal Kombat that played Liu Kang, Robin. Is it Robin Shou or
something like that? I always forget.
SHOU. I don't know if it's Shou or
probably
Show something. Anyway, the guy from, let's call him Liu Kang.
Yeah.
So, Liu Kang is his brother, and he thinks he's an actual ninja. The whole time he's doing stuff, it's because his brother's there, where he can't see him, taking care of things for him and making him think he's the one that's doing it. Until at the end, when they're harming his brother and he just goes nuts. He's like, "Nobody touches my brother." And he goes crazy and starts roundhousing people and doing cartwheels into kicks and everything else.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny. Now, the rest of it may not have been as humorous, but I mean, that one big burst in the end when he's taking everybody out, it's had me laughing pretty good.
Well, see, like for me, the kind of comedy that I'm more into is very much like kind of sort of under the radar, like sarcastic. Like I actually like I think David Spade's characters in Tommy Boy and Black Sheep are funnier than Chris Farley, because that's the kind of like comedy that I like, is like kind of like a jerk, very subdued. Like I'm just not into like obnoxious like clown comedy, which not all of Chris Farley's is, because like that's kind of what I mean with like being more of a fan of like his SNL career and the like cameo career, is because it's not too over the top. Like it's enough to where you're like, all right, this is a perfect level, like no more. And you just see him on screen for enough amount of time, whether it's a sketch or a cameo. So I don't know. To me, that's where I like to kind of think of Chris Farley. Like I kind of ignore everything after Tommy Boy.
They kind of list him as being known for a physical comedian, like a physical performance comedy, and his athleticism for his size. And they compare him to Curly Howard and Roscoe Arbuckle.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I mean,
that's a great person to be compared to.
I'm like
one of the Three Stooges and a murderer.
They're calling you Curly. I mean, to be known as him. I mean,
Roscoe Arbuckle killed someone. Fatty
Arbuckle. I didn't even know who Roscoe Arbuckle was.
Yeah, it's Fatty Arbuckle. He was a like silent film era comic actor, basically the first comic actor aside from like Chaplin. Like he was like the original Belushi, Farley, that type of actor, John Candy. And he was at a party, I think, like at William Randolph Hearst's house. It's something like that. And somehow this like young woman who is an actress that he was basically trying to like Weinstein, she ended up dead in the room that they were staying in. And it was pretty much well known that he murdered her. So he was blacklisted and never in anything else. So yeah, great person to get compared to.
Well, I had heard the name Fatty Arbuckle before. That's
Yeah.
funny. I didn't pick up on that when I read the name Arbuckle. But when I saw Roscoe Arbuckle, and I'm seeing his picture, he does look kind of creepy.
Yeah.
I mean, Curly Howard. I mean, he was just goofy.
Yeah.
I remember watching. I grew up on Three Stooges, so.
See, I'm not a fan of Three Stooges at all.
But see, it's that kind of comedy, the goofy physical stuff.
Right.
And it's like I liked John Ritter from Three's.
For
his performances on Three's Company as Jack Tripper. I mean, there's so much physical comedy in that. Getting the door, opened into him, hitting his toe on something, or hitting his knee and flipping over the couch, or.
Well, see, I don't mind stuff like that. So, like, I mean, I don't know if you've watched SNL, like 70s SNL. Like, did you grow up like watching a lot of that? Okay, so like how Chevy Chase would do those pratfalls at the beginning, to me, are one of the funniest things in like that era of SNL. But it's usually because he is so like subdued and calm while he's flipping over a table instead of like screaming and pretending like he's hurt. Like his whole thing is like doing a pratfall and saying like, "Oh, I'm fine," but he clearly just took this horrible spill, and it's like, okay, to me that's like way funnier than seeing, whoever, Chris Farley, Belushi, whatever, like flipping over a couch and screaming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, did you ever hear of his Chicago Second City Theater time that he did? He went in with the same day as Stephen Colbert. They said we were talking about Colbert earlier for a minute.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Started the same day as Stephen Colbert. Initially a part of Second City's touring group. Got promoted to the main stage in '89. It was a cast member of 3 reviews. The Gods Must Be Lazy. It was 30 years ago today, and flag smoking permitted in lobby only, or also known as Sensorama, I believe.
Yeah. That's
Yeah, that's kind of like some of the others. You hear about like that went to Mad TV, for example. They didn't go to SNL; they went to Mad TV. But before Mad TV, they were doing something like Kids in the Hall, or
right,
one of those other things like that. They came up through there.
Well, the improv groups, it was everybody either did Second City or UCB. So like in LA, they had, and the Groundlings. So like in LA, they had the Groundlings, which is where like Will Ferrell and a lot of like that era cast came from. And then I guess Second City's in Chicago, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. So like that's where like Bill Murray and his brother came from, Chris Farley and all of his brothers. I think Gilda Radner came from Second City, Martin Short. Like there was, and then a lot of Canadian comics, I think, came out of Second City, like John Candy, Eugene Levy, like a lot of those dudes.
I said Kids in the Hall earlier. I was thinking SCTV.
Yeah, well, that's what SCTV is Second City TV.
Oh, okay. Second, you know what?
Yeah, I think so.
It is. No, you're right. SCTV, Second City Theater. Okay.
Yeah, so that's where so before Belushi and them were at Second City, it was like those dudes like Dave Thomas, Catherine O'Hara, John Candy, Eugene Levy, Martin Short.
That's exactly what this is. I'm looking here. Del Close, Alan Alda, Alan Arkin, Harold Ramis, Bill Murray, Gilda Radner, John Candy, Belushi, Aykroyd, Eugene Levy, Catherine O'Hara, Farley, Tim Meadows, Carlin Mokry, Ryan Stiles, Mike Myers, Nia Vardolis. Why does that name sound familiar?
I know you're talking.
My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Okay.
Yes, that's
Steve Carell, Jordan Peele, Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, Stephen Colbert, Cicely. I could have watched. I never really watched SCTV.
Well, SCTV was only on for like 2 or 3 years, and it was only the So like Second City as a improv group, was around. It's still around, I think, but it was only actually on TV in Canada in like the late 70s, early 80s when like Rick Moranis was there. Actually, if you go on YouTube and watch like some of those old Second City sketches, I mean, they are as good, if not better, than SNL. Like at that time, because it was like kind of going on when SNL was in that like just crap period. Like whenever it was just Eddie Murphy, and then Eddie Murphy left, and all you had was like Joe Piscopo and these people that aren't funny at all.
Well, there was a time frame where I didn't watch it after the original cast members left. I didn't pick back up on it again until it was Will Ferrell and Cherry O'Terry and all them, and then I saw reruns where they had Farley and Spade and Sandler and all that.
Oh, so you didn't watch it like Farley, like that era, like in the 90s? Like
I didn't watch it live then. No,
okay.
I didn't pick up back live again until Will Ferrell, Cherry O'Terry, and Molly Shannon, and the group of people they brought in with that. And then I was seeing repeats on Comedy Central, the ones before of the other guys.
Okay. Yeah. See, I mean, and that's basically where I'm at with all of SNL. Because the cast. I mean, actually, the cast from whenever I was a kid was actually pretty good. It was like the ending of like Jimmy Fallon and Tina Fey and all of them, but then bringing in like Bill Hader, Jason Sudeikis, Fred Armisen, Kristen Wiig. Well, yeah, Amy Poehler was there, but she started in 2001 with Seth Meyers. They started at the same time. They actually started the week before 9/11. And so their first week at SNL was 9/11. So they're like, oh, Jesus Christ, this is not good. But yeah, like, I mean, I actually do kind of like the cast from whenever I was a kid, but I wish I would have grown up in the either Farley era or like the Belushi era.
I wasn't a huge fan of Kristen Wiig, but she's got this one skit on there that I found so funny. She's a part of a group of sisters or something, and somebody's singing. These bubbles are coming out, and she's got these little tiny hands.
Yeah, it's Lawrence Welk, or it's supposed to be It's Fred Armisen doing like a Lawrence Welk impersonation. Which I don't know if you ever saw like the Lawrence Welk show, but it was like
I remember it, but I never watched it.
Yeah, like just a super weird variety show with like very D-list acts. And so, yeah, she has like these tiny little baby hands and like a huge forehead. And like,
yes.
Yeah.
These tiny little hands trying to pop the bubbles as they're going around.
Yeah.
I swear. It's between that, it reminded me of Chris, what's his name from Scary Movie, played oh my God, a comedian, had his own TV show for a while as a paper boy.
Well, on what? Wait, on Scary Movie?
Yeah, he played the butler in one of the Scary movies.
Oh,
he's Chris, like, take my hand, child, take my hand. No, take the good one.
Chris Elliott. Yeah, he was on SNL too.
Yeah, as a writer as well. But he was what, briefly as an actor, as a comedian. But
yeah, well, he was in the writing crew with like, like Sarah Silverman and a couple other people who were not really actors. They were just there as writers, like Conan. Conan was there as a writer, I think a little before then, but yeah, it was like Chris Elliott and Sarah Silverman, Jay Moore. I mean, Jay Moore did some acting on it, but he's mostly there as a writer, I believe. But yeah.
Well, it's been some really great stuff over the years. Now, Farley in his movie career, I don't know if you know some of these. I'm going to run some of these things by you here.
Okay.
We've talked about his cameos, Billy Madison and Coneheads, Wayne's World, and all that. He was in a music video with the Red Hot Chili Peppers, the Soul to Squeeze, about the Coneheads, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we got Tommy Boy and Black Sheep. We said was both one and the same. Of course, they got a huge cult following on home video. They only made it. It says here that those were successes at the domestic box office, earning about $32 million each, but gained a large cult following on the home video. It says 2 films established Farley as a relatively bankable star, and he was given the title role of Beverly Hills Ninja, which finished in first place at the box office this opening weekend. I think it finished first place out of them just thinking, I really love Tommy Boy and Black Sheep. What's he going to do next?
For sure.
And they went and watched that, and maybe not, have liked it quite as much once they seen it. He had a couple of movies that were there after he had died posthumously, as Dirty
Mhm.
Work and Almost Heroes, that they
Mhm.
released both in the same year of '98. I
Yeah.
know, what Dirty Work was just a cameo, wasn't it?
Yeah. He was. I mean, he's in it for probably 6 minutes,
Yeah, I'm
about
not
as
sure.
long as like I think Chevy Chase is in it about the same amount of time, and Rickles, like Don Rickles, is in it.
I never bothered watching Almost Heroes. It didn't sound like anything I wanted to see.
I've
So.
never even heard of it.
Now, tell me if you knew this. You've watched Shrek, right?
I was hoping you were going to bring this up.
I could not. When I read this, I had never heard this before, and I won't say I was shocked or anything, but
Yeah.
I was hugely surprised that they went back and redone everything with Mike Myers. But it
Well,
was originally Chris Farley as
have you
Shrek.
heard? Have you heard it? Like the audio of him doing the lines.
I have not. No.
So it's on YouTube, or I mean, it's all over the internet where you can like actually find whenever, because he was, I mean, in the booth doing the lines before he died, and it's just basically him doing the lines over, like looking at pictures of the drawing of Shrek, and yeah, I mean, he's doing like the full dialogue from Shrek, and they just never were able to, finish it because he died. But then they brought in Mike Myers. But that's why Shrek is like kind of looks the way he looks. I mean, he's somewhat based on Chris Farley, but also based on can't remember the guy's name. He's a wrestler from like the '60s. But that's he's kind of like modeled after both of them. And yeah, then they just brought in Mike Myers to do the dialogue because he died.
Yeah, I had never known it. I've only known Shrek as Mike Myers this whole time, and now after seeing it, I'm gonna have to go look this up and listen to it just so because I'm trying to picture him doing this.
Well, it's not a Scottish accent, so he's doing it as Chris Farley. Well, it's just weird because like when you think of Shrek, you think of a Scottish accent, and it's just weird because it's just Chris Farley doing his like normal voice, but like it is very strange. I don't know that it would have been. It would not have been as good. I don't think. I mean, I guess it's easy to say that in hindsight. But
well, yeah, it's easy to say now. I mean, that's like people saying, I don't think that Eric Stoltz could have played Marty McFly because we only know Michael J. Fox.
Right.
Playing that role.
Yeah, or John Travolta as Forrest Gump.
Tom Selleck as Indiana Jones.
Al Pacino as Han Solo.
Yeah, we could keep going with these.
I mean,
we could say that we'd be like, we don't know. We could say he would suck at it all we want right now because we only know the other person who actually played it.
Yeah.
But that's the fun of people. There's another show I listen to where they recast movies sometimes. They would have put somebody else in that era in the movie, and they'll give you an idea of another movie they were in during that time frame, how they played that character, why they pick him for that or something. So
okay.
That's kind of interesting to listen to sometimes, to think of wonder, wow, could that person have pulled that off? I mean, could that person really have played that role? Yeah. I mean, they've recast Back to the Future. They've recast
Terminator.
No, I don't think Terminator was one of them.
No, I thought you were just talking about like in general, not the podcast, but yeah.
Oh no, the podcast people. They would they would say who they think could play these people in these roles. They did the Karate Kid. They've done Back to the Future. They've done. Oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank on some of them now. They've done like 6 or 7 of these episodes where they recast them with different people, and I'm like, I just don't know if that'll work or not. But then again, when I stop to think about it, okay, if I think of it objectively, not because I'm used to the other person who's in it, I could probably see them pulling that off in their own way.
Yeah,
and so same thing goes with him playing, Shrek. I mean, it's just Shrek would be just a little bit different in how he carried himself with the voice and everything. It'd be more louder, I would imagine, than what Mike Myers was.
Yeah. Well, that's what you can kind of hear whenever you hear him doing the dialogue, is it is very like, I mean, just like I said, it sounds like Chris Farley reading the dialogue of Shrek. Like it's not changed in any way. I mean, it is him doing his voice and, being super like loud at times. Like, I don't know, it would have worked, obviously. I mean, Chris Farley was a massively famous person who does have like a pretty distinct voice. So
and he was really popular at the time.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, it would have worked. It's just one of those things. It's like, you hear the stories of people getting replaced, but most of the time you don't actually see it. Like you have nothing to go off of except for Eric Stoltz. Like you can actually watch the, tape of him actually doing the scenes before he got replaced. But yeah, whenever you're actually seeing the person who was originally supposed to do it, like actually do the role, is very strange.
Now, he was also slated for another voice role in a movie called Dinosaurs, a young male brachiosaurus named Sorbus, who, despite his gigantic stature, was afraid of heights.
Huh.
See that?
Well, that's interesting. So, wait, Dinosaur like the 2000 or 2001 Disney one?
Well, let's see if I got a year here for you.
I mean, I know there's a movie called Dinosaur. Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, that's
so Walt Disney feature animation. Definitely.
Yeah. That's a great movie.
Too. Yeah, he's going to be the voice of Sorbus.
Huh.
At the time of his death, he'd been in talks to co-star with Vince Vaughn too in something called The Gelfin or Gelfin. I think it's Gelfin or Gelfin, Gelfin, and star in a biographical film about comedian Fatty Arbuckle.
Really?
Yes, to be
written.
That
is interesting.
Yeah, that's to be written by David Mamet.
Oh, yeah, David Mamet, the playwright.
Okay, yeah, it was going to be written by him. And it was going to be about comedian Fatty. That's why I said I heard the name Fatty Arbuckle before, because I'd read down into that and seen that there. Yeah. I didn't, and there was Roscoe up top. The Jim Carrey's role in the 96 film The Cable Guy was originally intended for Farley.
Okay. I think I have heard that.
He had scheduling conflicts, though, so it forced him to decline. He was also offered the role of Ishmael, eventually played by Randy Quaid, in Kingpin. But he was forced by Paramount to turn it down to honor his commitment to star in Black Sheep.
Really?
Yeah.
That is interesting. See, I think the Fatty Arbuckle movie would have been... I mean, well, one, David Mamet is a genius. He's the guy that wrote Glengarry Glen Ross. I don't know if you ever saw that movie, but I mean, it's an incredible movie. David Mamet is a genius writer, but yeah, that is super interesting. Huh.
I have not seen it, but I know what it is. I don't know when it came out, but I have not seen it though.
Yeah.
The other movies I mentioned a moment ago, I never really watched Cable Guy either, because Jim Carrey he's funny to me in some things, and in some things he's not. I could watch him all day long as Ace Ventura.
Yeah. I get that.
Cable
Guy is not great.
I never enjoyed The Mask like some people did.
I didn't either. I mean, whenever I was a little kid, I did, but no.
I mean, I wasn't a little kid when it came out, so I was like, this is not for me. The Cable Guy didn't look funny to me. I passed on that.
No, Cable Guy it's weird. Like it is not funny to me at all, which I don't even know if it's supposed to be. It's one of those movies where you're like, I think they were supposed to be making a comedy, but I'm not 100% sure.
Now, Me, Myself, and Irene, I laughed a lot about.
Me, Myself, and Irene is the best.
That was hilarious.
Yeah,
but that was it. So I didn't care for his serious stuff he tried to do. I don't want to watch Jim Carrey as a serious actor. That's like saying I want to watch Michael Jordan play baseball again, because I didn't like watching him play baseball when he was doing it. So to me, I want comedy out of him.
I mean, I think it depends on the person. I mean, Bill Murray can do serious acting. There are certain people who can pull it off like really well, and there are certain serious actors who can pull off comedy super well. Because it's kind of like saying you don't want to see De Niro do comedy, but De Niro's a master of comedy.
I can't think of anything funny off the top of my head.
Meet the Parents, Analyze
Meet the Parents was good, but he didn't strike me as a particular funny character in it. He didn't he didn't carry the comedy like Ben Stiller did in it.
See, I think he's funnier than Ben Stiller in Meet the Parents. Like his lines and his delivery is, which I don't think Ben Stiller's funny at all, but yeah, I like De Niro. I think De Niro has great comedy timing. Like I think he's very overlooked at how good he is at comedy. But it's kind of the same with Jim Carrey. Like I think I mean, Jim Carrey, he just has made movies that aren't that good, where he's
Mm-hmm.
doing serious acting. But like, if you look at like Man on the Moon or The Truman Show, I mean, those movies are incredible.
I never watched the Truman Show because it didn't interest me the topic of it. And now that I've seen the Truman, I haven't really seen the Truman Show, but thinking about how life has gone since then and how people love reality stuff.
Yeah.
And they want to watch reality. That's like right there. That's the Truman Show. It's just everyday life and what's going on for him. And people are watching it. I didn't really, Man in the Moon. I mean, I saw the guy throughout his career anyway. I didn't want to see someone portraying him in a movie. And the part where he had done the thing with Jerry Lawler in wrestling, I was watching that live on TV every week when it happened. I was watching him in the Memphis studio out there. Oh, but you wrestling. You wrestlers, and he's wrestling the women on TV and everything and beating the women. And then Jerry Lawler slapping him on Letterman. I saw that tonight. It happened on television. So stuff like that. I mean, it's like reliving it through somebody else doing it. And he did a good job portraying him. Yeah. Doing Andy Kaufman, but I didn't really want to watch the movie of it though.
I get that. I just am a massive Andy Kaufman fan. Like he would be in probably my top 5 like comedy influences. Like to me, Andy Kaufman is gotta be up there, probably maybe like top 5, top 10. But yeah, so like I watched Man on the Moon all the time, especially like in high school whenever I was like kind of figuring out like the comedy that I sort of looked up to. Because like as a kid, I would watch actually, a lot of Chris Farley stuff just because I was always, like a fat kid. So like I was like, well, if I am going to be funny, I'm going to need to be funny like this. So I would watch like Animal House all the time to kind of figure out what Belushi was doing. And I'd watch Chris Farley SNL and Chris Farley movies all the time and John Candy all the time. And then I was like, yeah, like they're okay. But I got way more into Norm and Andy Kaufman and people like that.
And Andy Kaufman was a perfectionist with his stuff. He wanted done. Yeah. He told Lawler before they go on stage, he says, this is what we're going to do. We're going to really sell this, okay? He goes, I want you to slap me as hard as you can. He goes, don't hold back on me. I can take a slap, okay? Just do it. Yeah. You sure you? And he was like, I was asking him, are you sure you really want to do all that? And he's like, yes, we're going to sell this hard. And then he just, like, he slapped the taste right out of his mouth, it looked like, and he knocked him out of the chair. And then on TV a week or two later, he came out and he's challenged him to a match finally. He's going to fight Jerry Lawler in a match. And then he gets all the pile drivers put on him. And then the week later, he's out there with a neck brace. And they're selling the neck brace so hard. Like he's going to sue the company. He's going to sue Jerry Lawler and sue the city of Memphis and everything else. I mean, he really ran because he was a huge wrestling fan to begin with himself. Yeah. And they tried selling it to the McMahons up north in WWF, but they didn't want nothing to do with it. Right. They said that's not what wrestling's about. Yet they come out with Doink the Clown and exactly. The Red Rooster and things like this. Yeah. So wasn't good for them, but then that was better for the people who did take it because they ran with it and it brought some little bit of fame to the area there for a while. Yeah. Chris Farley also, I'm noticing here, was set to appear in a third Ghostbusters film at the time. Huh. What happened? I said, which was at the time intended to be about a new trio of Ghostbusters taking on the overpopulation in hell.
Really? I don't know about the plot.
Yeah, that's I don't weird. Know. Oh, that sounds kind of strange for a plot, but we haven't seen anything put on videos how it would get out. Right. But, Dave Pilkey.
Yeah.
Author of children's book Captain Underpants. Wanted Chris Farley to play the title role in a potential television series based on the books.
That, I could see that.
Yeah, I think I could see that.
I mean, really, just pick any fat actor and they could play, certain like roles like that. You're like, well, I'm sure that he would have offered it to him, Tom Arnold. He would have just went through the list of.
I think Tom Arnold could pull it off too. Since you brought that up, thinking about it.
Yeah, there's not a lot of times I think in history where someone has said, "I think Tom Arnold could pull it off." But I guess
but you know what? He was great in True Lies.
I mean, I
I
guess.
I thought he was playing the sidekick to Schwarzenegger in True Lies.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. Like anybody could have been in that damn movie. I mean,
Probably.
I actually like Tom Arnold in I mean, it does not go against my argument at all, but I mean, it does go against my argument. But in Austin Powers, when Tom Arnold's like in the bathroom, like the kind of cowboy dude, like,
Show
what
that
did you
turd his
eat?
boss.
Yeah, like Tom Arnold is actually Chris Farley esque in that you kind of just want him there for a little bit. Like he's really good at making something memorable, like something quick and memorable. Like he's basically just a wrecking ball.
True.
Like, and you don't want to watch that for 2 hours, but you do want to see it for 10 minutes. And that 10 minutes is probably going to be better than the other, hour and a half. But I don't know. That to me, that's Farley's strong suit, 100%. And I'm sure he knew that. I mean, he knew, like, because look at Belushi. Belushi was never able to have a successful movie career.
Right.
And it's kind of the same thing. Like the only successful movies that Belushi had were Blues Brothers and Animal House. And Animal House, he's barely in it. And Blues Brothers, it's really more of a Dan Aykroyd movie. So I think Farley probably knew that was, that was probably going to be his path as well. He's like, I'm probably going to be the guy who's doing the really memorable, funny cameo.
Yeah. Yeah. He there was a movie that Farley expressed interest in, and he wanted to. It was portraying a Tuck in an adaptation of the novel The Incomparable Tuck. Both of these, as well as a Confederacy of Dunces. But the other one, The Incomparable Tuck, it says both of these show projects, along with the Arbuckle biopic, have been alleged to be cursed, as Farley, Belushi, and Candy were each attached to both roles.
I have heard that about. Okay, so that name sounded so familiar when you were saying the Tuck. I was like, where do I know that? And I've read about that curse. I didn't know the Arbuckle one was one, but that makes perfect sense too.
Yeah, and I did not. It's all three of them we were talking about were attached to both roles, and all three died before any of the films entered production.
But also, is it a curse, or were they just offering these roles to fat drug addicts? I mean, if you're
way of looking at it, I mean,
well, if you're going to offer a role to 3 fat drug addicts, you have to assume that they ain't going to be around that long. I mean, skinny drug addicts don't even stay around long, let alone ones that are 350 pounds and doing heroin every 5 minutes. Like, yeah, they're probably going to die. It wasn't like they were offering it to, Jared Leto or something, or, Tom Hanks, which I don't know why those two names popped up, but I mean, you have a target casting here that is, a little compromised already.
Do you know what it was that got Chris Farley, the drug he was on that eventually got him today?
Was it coke?
It was. It was partially, yes. It was something known as a speedball.
Oh, so the same thing as Belushi. Heroin and coke.
Yeah, well, it was. It says cocaine. It says cocaine and morphine is what it says.
Well, yeah, they usually call morphine and heroin. They use that interchangeably, but yeah. So I thought that's what it was because again, such a huge Belushi fan, and that's how Belushi died. Was taking a speedball.
And then they have here it says on Chris Farley that advanced atherosclerosis was cited as a significant contributing factor. Now, if you don't know what that is, because I did not. That is something where it's like the walls of your artery develop abnormalities called lesions, and the lesions may lead to narrowing due to the buildup of plaque.
Yeah.
So basically, his arteries were closing up on him, and here he is doing stuff that probably is not very good for the blood pressure, And next thing you know, he's gone.
Yeah. And just happens to take the exact same drug that John Belushi took to die the exact same age John Belushi died. Is very interesting. And under kind of weird circumstances of a woman being a little too involved in the situation. Like basically, there's a weird argument that like Belushi and Farley were both killed by the woman that they were with, which may or may not be true. But it is, I mean, look, I don't know if you've ever seen this picture, but I'm not telling you to look it up, but it is something that, I don't know, look it up. Have you ever seen the picture of Chris Farley dead?
No.
Jesus. So the woman who he was with, who may or may not have like given him the drugs, went back into the room, saw that he was dead. Instead of calling the cops, took a picture of him so that she could sell it to magazines. And then he was found, later on. But yeah, that picture's all over the internet, and it is rough. Yeah. So
I can imagine so. I mean, I don't make a habit of Googling pictures of dead comedians or anything, or dead people in general. But I knew there was something weird about you.
Yeah. I mean, once you see Kennedy, get scalped, you kind of want to see the rest of them.
I have actually seen that one. I have seen the video of that too many times, probably. And
yeah, back and to the left, back and to the left.
That right there is something that comes up in many different things. Not only is it just in the usual conspiracy theory videos or talks about what's happened, how it happened, how many people were a part of it, who actually killed him. There's also the thing about what is the thing called what was the guy's name that was in prison for a long time? Mandela effect.
Yeah, Mandela effect, right.
So there's a Mandela effect thing about that where they talk about, do you remember him in the car and what happened? He was in the back seat, right? Or there was the front seat with the driver, and there was the back seat where him and his wife was.
Right. And
when you go back and you look now, there's like an extra seat in the middle of them or something. Or something like it. Or there's like a third seat or something. That people are like, that wasn't there before.
No, I know what you're talking about. Because it's where like John Connolly was sitting, the governor, who was the governor of Texas at the time. He got shot in the hand and leg. And yeah. So like I live like near Dallas, and every time that I go into Dallas, I go to Dealey Plaza, stand in the middle of the road because there's these two X's. One where he got shot the first time, and then there's a bigger X in the road where the headshot, and I go stand in the middle of the road and look up at the school book depository building. And yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense that Lee Harvey Oswald could have shot him. Like, you could throw a baseball and hit that window. Like, it is like, people act like it was this like crazy difficult shot and that it was like super far. I mean, nah, not really. I'm telling you, you could, if you had a decent enough arm on you, you could have hit Lee Harvey Oswald with a baseball from that point in the road. So I don't know. Yeah. Not to get into, fucking JFK assassination conspiracy.
Right.
It is interesting.
Hey, we do get off topic sometimes, but we don't go that crazy off topic.
Yeah, but Chris Farley was murdered.
Farley's funeral, they talk about his funeral. It's a private funeral held on December 23rd, 1997 at Our Lady Queen of Peace Catholic Church in his hometown of Madison, Wisconsin. Over 500 people attended his funeral, including many comedians he worked with on SNL, such as Aykroyd, Sandler, Chris Rock, Schneider, Lorne Michaels, Al Franken, John Goodman, Bob Odenkirk, Tim Meadows, Robert Smigel, George Wendt, and Phil Hartman. But noticeably absent, they said, was David Spade. And people wondered for a while. It was kind of debated, were they having, some difficulties between the two of them or something. Yeah. They were saying that Spade didn't show up because they had problems and that, they were having some difficulties between the two. That's why you didn't see them hanging out much or something. But they said there was nothing like that going on as far as the hanging out. He said basically, later on when he was actually asked about it, that it was just too emotionally difficult for him to be there because they were such good friends. And, as many times, I think David Spade's been quoted before saying that he had told him he needed to slow down on what he was doing and stop what he was doing because it wasn't going to end well for him. And, So he did. It basically says there's no ill will that was ever between them. It's just that it was too difficult for him to show up, and I can understand that.
I get that for sure.
You know,
Yeah, I
if
mean
you're
they
really
were.
close, we're really close to somebody, and you know,
Well, and also funerals are super boring. So I mean, I would have been like, he's not gonna know I wasn't there. Like, I mean, it would have been cool. It would have been cool to meet George Wendt. So I
yeah.
probably would have went for that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't. I just have a thing about funerals anyway. So I would have been right there with David Spade. I'm not going to this thing.
I know a lot of people that can't do them. I will do them for people that I'm closest to and know the most well. If I wasn't real close to somebody, then I probably won't do it just because it's just putting yourself through unnecessary emotional trip basically because you wasn't super good friends with them. They wasn't a close family member or anything like that. So.
I just get super uncomfortable seeing people like have emotions, which I mean, there's probably a lot to unpack there, but like I have a thing. I like whenever I see people cry, I'm like, what am I supposed to do right now? It's like, because I don't get emotional about stuff. So like whenever I see people getting emotional, I immediately just kind of try to like swallow into myself. Where I'm like, oh God, this makes me feel real icky.
Yeah,
this is probably not. But,
that's the reason why. That's the reason why a lot of people don't go to funerals and attend things like that because of how it really makes them feel. And some people will tell you that they say that they felt like they were just being selfish at that point for not going. Well, it's nothing selfish about it, really.
No.
I mean, if you can't handle it, then you can't handle it. And people do understand, if you're not there and the reason why, if you can't handle something, because, it's most people know they don't want to put anybody through any unnecessary strain if they don't have to.
Yeah.
They appreciate you thinking about them. They appreciate the fact that, you're sorry for the loss and everything. Thank you. But you don't have to just, show up on my behalf for me, because that person's going to be the same regardless.
Well, to me, it's more selfish for the person that died expecting people to go to your funeral. Like, you aren't even around anymore, and you're still going to make me get up early on a Sunday morning and miss the football game to come look at you in a box, and you don't even know if I'm there or not. That's selfish.
There was a man who, big Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and when he passed away, he had them dress him up in his in his usual Sunday wear he had for Pittsburgh Steelers games.
Jesus.
They had him. He wanted his funeral on a Sunday, and he had a favorite game that he had recorded that Pittsburgh had played in. It was one of his favorite games they'd ever done. And at his funeral, he was not in a coffin. They had him sitting up in his lazy boy.
Oh God.
There was a drink off to the side of the table.
No.
There was a half-smoked cigar sitting there. The TV was playing with the game on. His feet was kicked up in the recliner. And people would come by there and pay their last respects. That's how they would remember him.
God.
That's how they knew him.
I'd have just walked out with the cigar. I'm like, hey, he ain't going to finish this, is he? Like, hey, free cigar. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. That is, I don't like that at all. Ugh.
No, but I mean, it's all good. You're talking about, I'm looking at some of the things you're talking about Chris Farley's legacy, basically. Is that his career, his private life, his early death have often been compared to that of his idol, John Belushi, who died at the same age. We know of a similar drug overdose. We've been talking about that. He was posthumously awarded the 2,289th star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, located in front of Iowa West. An authorized biography of Farley, The Chris Farley Show, was written by his brother Tom Jr. and Tanner Colby. The song Purple Stain from the Red Hot Chili Peppers' 1999 album, Californication, contains the lyric, Farley is an angel and I can prove this, as a tribute to Chris Farley. The best tribute to Chris Farley there was what Adam Sandler did.
In his special?
Yeah, in 2018 in his special. Emotional tribute dedicated to Farley and his Netflix stand-up special, Adam Sandler, 100% Fresh. They got that little video playing in the background of him doing the lunch lady thing as he's going around. and stuff like that. That was a really, really cool thing getting he done on there.
Yeah, that's whenever. Yeah, that's one that kind of like I got that little tickle in the back of my throat where I was like, oh god, here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was just man, that's tough. It was.
Well,
I mean, it's a great tribute to Chris
it,
Farley.
it was, and then Sandler replayed it again later on a live episode of SNL that he hosted in May 4th of 19.
Mm-hmm.
Just to put back on there for people in case I guess they didn't see it the first time around. But he had a good career regardless. I'd like to have seen him stay around a lot longer and do a lot more good things.
Yeah.
It's like you said. I mean, he wasn't exactly the best lead man, except for Tommy Boy. That was great. Tommy Boy is my favorite movie of his that he's ever been in.
Mm-hmm.
And like I told you, I thought Beverly Hills Ninja would, it made me laugh. It cracked me up. He actually was nominated MTV Movie Awards Best Comedic Performance in Beverly Hills Ninja, and he got MTV Music Award Best On-Screen Duo shared with David Spade. So that's what you were talking about, trying to make him and David Spade, the comedic duo like you've seen with Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder.
Mm-hmm.
And they were great for that. They were probably the best duo I ever grew up watching for comedians and comedy movies. See No Evil, Hear No Evil.
Yeah,
I laughed like good, and Stir Crazy.
Stir Crazy.
Probably the two best.
Yeah, Stir Crazy is for sure my favorite. Or the one where they're on the train. Is it Silver Bullet?
Silver Bullet.
Yeah, Silver Bullet's a great one too.
So I mean, there was Silver Bullet, there was Bustin' Loose, there was Stir Crazy, there was See No Evil, Hear No Evil.
I think that's it.
I think they just did 4 together.
Yeah, it was just those 4. Yeah.
Yeah. And then television, I mean, of course, SNL, he did the Jackie Thomas show. It's Larry Sanders show. It was on Roseanne in an episode.
Yeah.
I don't know what the show Tom was. It's listed in 94, something called Tom.
Was it Tom Arnold's show?
It just says Tom, and his role was Chris. So
I think it's Tom Arnold. I think it was Tom Arnold's thing, wasn't it?
Let's see. Tom,
an
American sitcom television series on CBS during mid-season from March 2nd to June 13th. Canceled the one season due to poor ratings. Doesn't mention Tom Arnold or anything, though. It just says Tom.
I could have sworn that was Tom Arnold's show, but maybe not.
Yeah, and then he hosted SNL. The Chris Farley host and the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones was the music act on there.
I didn't know that. I never knew he hosted.
Now, there was something about that I seen up here. Hold on. They compared that to the one Steven Seagal did. Here we go. Here it is. On October 25th, 1997, Farley made his final appearance on SNL Live as a first-time host. The cold open featured Lorne Michaels contemplating Farley's ability to host, with Tim Meadows advocating that he'll be calm, he'll be focused, he'll be good. His party days are over. Chevy Chase was Farley's sponsor in the sketch. Farley's hoarse voice and flushed skin were the subject of public scrutiny. He had strained his vocal cords during performance, and his exhaustion was so noticeable the producers nearly recommended canceling his appearance. Farley's hosting had been considered so troubling to the cast and crew that it was decided to be pulled from general circulation and syndication, as well as the SNL seasonal streaming, a decision only shared with Steven Seagal's 1991 hosting stint he did.
Really? Okay, so that makes sense because I've been hearing about the Seagal thing, about Steven Seagal just being the worst host in SNL history. And I've been I was trying to find it on Peacock to watch it, and it was nowhere. I was like, what this isn't on here. So that makes sense that Chris Farley's wouldn't be, because actually I think I have heard that it was like really sad. Like it was too close to the end.
Yeah.
So yeah, that actually I have heard that before. It makes sense why I've never seen it, but yeah.
That's true. It would. What we'll have to do one day. I'll say if you're up to it, I'll set it aside for you. If you're up to it one day, we'll do another show just on SNL.
Oh, I am completely down. I mean, I idolized SNL. So yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, there's so many great skits and comedies and comedians from there that they've done over the years. We could probably do 3 episodes on it, truthfully. I mean,
easily.
So we'll make sure we do that. We are actually at the end of the show here, wrapping things up. We're a good hour. We're at the hour mark, hour and 2 minutes, something like that. But we'll go ahead and wrap things up here. Just what we'll do to close things out. If you could take one thing away from Chris Farley's career, what's your favorite that he did? And that could be skit, movie, whatever.
Man, that is. Oh man, I think actually probably his cameo in Billy Madison. Like as a kid, Billy Madison, like I watched it on repeat and would just quote it with my friends to like, try to make them laugh.
Yeah.
And I always like my go-to was all of Chris Farley's lines. Like that Veronica Bond, like just going into
He's like, no, you didn't. Yeah, no,
no, maybe not. He's like, yeah, no, that's it. That to me, that is like my favorite thing that Chris Farley's ever done. Yeah,
I think if it's one of two things for me. I mean, I really thought the thing with Patrick Swayze and him as a Chippendale dancer was hilarious.
Yeah,
but I laughed the most at him as motivational speaker Matt Foley.
Yeah,
so I'm probably going to go with Matt Foley.
Yeah, it's hard not to pick something from SNL. Mm-hmm. Like I had to just go away from SNL because otherwise, like everything to me for SNL wise is like on the same level for him, and it's amazing. Like his SNL, everything he did, like it's like, oh my god, like I wish he was in more sketches, which he was in. I mean, it seemed like almost all of them, and rightfully so.
Yeah, and I do love Tommy Boy. Like I said, it's my favorite movie of his. But I mean, it's like, do you pick a part of the movie? Do you just say the whole movie in general? Because when he's out on the boat with the girl, and the kids on the shore are yelling at him, I am just laughing so hard.
That's a great. Yeah. See, my favorite scene is when they're having the fight, him and David Spade.
Yeah.
And he like calls him like Papa Smurf, and he's like, oh, you feel it? Like I felt a breeze. Is there a draft? Like yeah, like that to me, that's my favorite in that movie. But yeah, I mean, I could go on Chris Farley.
When the kids yelled at him, "Hey Gilligan, did you eat the skipper?"
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean that part is Chris Farley is amazing.
Man, that would be I'm gonna go ahead and stick with the SNL though, Matt Foley though. I'm gonna go and stick with that. I'm gonna call that my favorite. And I'm gonna stick with it. No more changes. Although Tommy Boy was great. Anyway, all right. So, anything you got coming up you want to throw out there? I mean, I know you've been doing some stuff here lately.
Yeah, I mean, just follow me on Instagram at the Cody Tucker. So I put everything about the podcast and any dates that I'll have coming up soon, hopefully. But yeah, really just check out the podcast. Comes out pretty much every Tuesday. It's the Cody Tucker Show. Just look it up on YouTube. I mean, that's at least how I recommend to watch it, but you can certainly find it anywhere you find your podcasts.
Exactly. Same goes for here, as everybody knows. Wherever you find your other podcasts, we are right there waiting for you as well. If you will, make sure you, after listening to the show, go and give us a rating and a review. It helps a ton. I can't begin to explain to you how much it really helps. It's crazy how the ranking systems, work these days. And it's just like being on Google or something, the more you put to it, the more you've been seen, the more reviews you get, the more you're talked about, the more popular they think you are, and they put you up at the top, right? So talk about us, rate us, review us, put us out there, share us with your friends and family. It is all truly appreciated. So, Cody, thanks, man, for coming on again. And we will get to talking another time about that SNL thing we're going to do. It might be after the first of the year, but we're going to do it, though.
Thanks. Yeah, dude, I'm completely down. I would love to.
All right, and we'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.